The night was quieter than usual, the kind of silence that felt almost alive, like the world was holding its breath. He sat by the dim light of his living room lamp, a half-empty mug of coffee growing cold beside him. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, brushing against the window panes with a soft, mournful sigh. He had been staring at the same page of his book for the last 20 minutes, not reading, not really thinking, just existing in that heavy stillness that follows heartbreak. Ever since she left, the apartment had felt like a shell of what it once was. Every corner carried a memory, every object seemed to whisper her name. He had tried to move on, to forget, but the nights always betrayed him. It was during those long, sleepless hours that her laughter echoed the loudest in his mind, the way her eyes once sparkled when she teased him, the warmth of her presence that no amount of solitude could replace. Then came the knock. It was faint at first, almost too soft to notice. 3 hesitant taps. He froze, his mind struggling to register the sound. It was past midnight. No one ever came by at that hour. He set his mug down and listened. The silence returned, stretching thin across the room. He wondered if he had imagined it, a trick of exhaustion. But then it came again, this time a little louder, desperate, trembling. He rose slowly, heart beginning to pound against his ribs. Every instinct told him it was strange, wrong even, but something deeper, a quiet pull of worry or curiosity, made him move toward the door. As he reached for the knob, he hesitated, his fingers hovering just above the metal. Then he turned it. The door creaked open, and there she was, standing under the faint glow of the porch light, her hair damp from the night air, her eyes swollen and glistening with tears. She wore nothing but a long, oversized shirt, one he recognized immediately. It used to be his. Her bare feet trembled against the cold cement, and when she tried to speak, her voice broke before any words could form. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The world seemed to stand still. He could only stare at her, at the face he had both longed for and resented in equal measure. The tears rolled freely down her cheeks now, and when she tried to wipe them away, her hands shook. "Please," she finally whispered, her voice a fragile echo. "I didn't know where else to go." His throat tightened. A storm of questions swirled inside him. Where had she been? Why now? What had happened? But seeing her like this, broken and lost, all his anger dissolved into something softer, something dangerously close to compassion. He stepped aside. "Come in." She hesitated for a second, as if afraid that crossing that threshold would break something that could never be mended. But then she nodded faintly and stepped inside. He closed the door behind her, sealing them both inside the quiet hum of memories and regret. She stood by the couch, wrapping her arms around herself. He noticed how cold her skin looked, how pale she had become. Without thinking, he took the blanket from the armchair and draped it over her shoulders. She didn't say thank you, but her eyes met his for a fleeting second, enough to say everything words couldn't. "Sit," he said softly. She sank into the couch, her gaze distant, unfocused. He sat opposite her, still unsure what to do. The air between them was thick with unspoken things. "I thought I'd never see you again," he finally said, his voice lower than he intended. She let out a trembling breath. "I thought I could forget. I tried, God, I tried, but it just got worse." Her fingers gripped the edge of the blanket as if she needed to hold onto something solid. "I left because I was scared. I didn't know how to stay and face what I'd done." He frowned. "And what did you do?" She looked up, her eyes full of guilt. "I broke us," she said simply. "I pushed you away, and when you tried to hold on, I ran. I told myself it was the right thing to do. But it wasn't. I ruined everything we had." He leaned back, trying to process her words. The pain she spoke of mirrored his own. "You didn't ruin it alone," he said after a moment. "I stopped fighting too." She blinked, surprised. I thought if you wanted to go, I should let you. I told myself I'd be fine, that I didn't need anyone." He paused, staring down at his hands. "Turns out, that was a lie." Tears filled her eyes again. I never stopped caring, she whispered. Even when I pretended I didn't, I thought of you every single day. He could see she meant it. There was no performance in her voice, no manipulation, just raw, aching truth. And yet, the wound inside him still throbbed. Then why now? He asked quietly. After all this time, why come back? Her lips trembled. Because tonight, I finally realized what I've become without you. Empty. I had nowhere else to go. No one who would even open the door for me. I thought maybe you wouldn't either. But I had to try. He looked at her, this woman who once brought color into his life, now standing like a shadow of herself. And against his better judgment, he felt his heart bend again. He could see the pain in her posture, the exhaustion in her voice. Whatever had happened, she had been through hell. Are you in trouble? He asked. She hesitated, then nodded slightly. Not the kind you think. Just life. It all fell apart. I lost my job, my place. Everything kept slipping away. I thought I could handle it, but I couldn't. And when I hit bottom, the only face I saw was yours. Something inside him broke at those words. The anger he had carried for so long started to fade into pity and tenderness. He reached for her hand before he could stop himself. Her fingers were cold, trembling, but when she felt his touch, she squeezed back as if it were the only thing keeping her from collapsing. They sat in silence for a long time, the weight of the past pressing between them. Outside, the wind howled softly, and somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Inside, only the faint hum of the heater filled the space. When she finally spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. Do you hate me? He looked at her, really looked at her, the tear-streaked face, the trembling lips, the eyes that once held so much fire and now only sorrow. No, he said. I tried to, but I couldn't. That was all it took. The dam broke. She sobbed quietly, covering her face with her hands, and he moved closer, hesitating for a second before wrapping his arms around her. She didn't resist. She buried her face against his chest, her tears soaking through his shirt. It's okay, he whispered, though he wasn't sure if it was. You're safe now. For a long time, they stayed like that, two broken souls finding warmth in each other's presence again. When her crying finally quieted, she looked up at him, her eyes red but softer now. I missed this, she said. I missed you. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. You shouldn't have left like that. I know, she said. I thought I was protecting you. I thought I was too damaged, too much trouble. He gave a small, sad smile. You never needed to be perfect. You just needed to stay. She lowered her eyes. I wish I had. He stood then, walking to the kitchen and pouring her a glass of water. She took it with shaky hands and drank. When she set it down, she looked at him again. Can I stay here tonight? He hesitated, not because he didn't want to say yes, but because he knew what it meant. Letting her stay wasn't just an act of kindness, it was opening an old wound, risking everything again. Yeah, he said softly. You can stay. Her lips curved into a faint smile, fragile, hopeful. Thank you. He showed her to the spare room, the one that used to be hers. The bed was still made, the sheets still folded neatly from the last time she was there. She touched the nightstand gently, as if greeting an old friend. I can't believe you kept everything the same, she said quietly. I tried to change it once, he admitted, but it didn't feel right. She turned to him, tears filling her eyes again. You never really stopped loving me, did you? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The silence said enough. Later, when he returned to his own room, sleep didn't come easily. His mind replayed the night again and again. The knock, the tears, the way her voice broke when she said his name. He wanted to believe this was the start of something new, a chance to fix what had been broken. But part of him feared it was just a brief moment of weakness, destined to end like before. Hours passed. Then, just as he was about to drift off, there was a soft creak at his door. He turned and saw her standing there again, wrapped in the blanket, her eyes wide and uncertain. "I couldn't sleep," she whispered. "The room feels so empty." He sat up. "Come here." She crossed the room slowly, like a ghost returning to its old life. When she sat beside him, neither of them spoke. She rested her head on his shoulder, and he felt the warmth of her breath against his skin. For the first time in a long while, the silence between them didn't hurt. It felt like peace. As the night stretched on, they didn't make promises or try to define what this meant. They simply existed, two souls who had lost each other and somehow found their way back. Maybe tomorrow would bring new questions, maybe old wounds would reopen, but for now, there was only the sound of the rain outside and the fragile rhythm of two hearts slowly learning to beat together again. And as the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, he realized something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Quiet, uncertain, but real. Because no matter how broken the past had been, sometimes all it took to begin healing was one midnight knock and a tearful smile.